Hello there. Today I'm going to be making a katmer with leeks, and this is for one of the requests of my subscribers, Braina Arthur. This is for you. We start with our 4 chopped up leeks, finely chopped, and we're putting a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of oil. We're going to saute our leeks till they wilt a little bit, not too much, just enough, and leave them to cool off. About 15 minutes of sauteing our leeks on a medium heat. We don't want them too brown, we just want them enough to be softened. Starting our dough here, I have 3 cups of mixture of water and milk, which is 1 cup of milk, 2 cups of warm water, and we got a tablespoon of salt here. We're going to mix this together and make sure the salt is all diluted. I have here all-purpose flour. We start with 4 tablespoons. Make a little well here. We have 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and our milk is and our water is nice and warm. It has to be warm so your dough is incorporated well. You cannot get cold. Just mixing it well. Normal dough for the pita, which some people make them just with water. I make a mixture of milk and water. We're going to make 20 rounds of dough out of this. I'm going to add more flour. And remaining our milk and water mixture. Our dough has to be nice and elasticy. Just press it apart, like adding more flour to this till our dough is nice and not sticky. Going to turn our dough in our working space. Leave the crumbs in the bottom. This is enough flour, so we are going to incorporate this all in one. Press it down with our bottom of our palm. Flour in your hands. Stretching it. Just use scraper and then of the excess flour. And this is typical pita dough. It comes fast incorporated. We're gonna clean our hands just by rubbing them together and removing all the crumbs. Now our dough is nice and smooth. Your hands are clean and you don't need any more flour than this. Scraping all remaining. Removing the flour. Just working our dough until it's nice and soft. Play with it. That's how soft it is. It's not sticky anymore. Here I have my cookie sheet, which I'm gonna oil this. We're not gonna flour this. We're gonna oil it and just spread oil all around. Going to cut our equal size ball. That size, just with our oiled hands, now floured. We're going to make them into rounds, about a golf-size ball, like that. Nice, soft. So now that we have our 20 rounds out of soft, we're just putting our oil. We are going to put some oil in the top and let them rest about an hour at room temperature and warm environment. Just put in your bag over it so they don't crust up, and you leave them to rest till they soften up. Here I have 1 cup of vegetable oil, warming it up, just enough for us to able to put our finger in there, just to keep it like that. Our dough rised and it's soft and arrested, and they're nice and shiny and soft. Our leeks here, that we are going to combine some feta cheese in there, about a cupful or so. Just crumble and mix it well. This gives it a nice flavor to the leeks. Who doesn't like sauteed leeks with feta cheese? I have not found one person that does not like green onions and feta cheese. This is going to be our filling for our katmer. And this dish does not need to be using any dairy besides the feta. Just the oil warmed up. Mixing it well. Our leeks are cooled off by now, so you're able to handle them. We're going to grease our pan where our just tablespoon or so. We have our surface here just oiled. We don't use flour for this, and our stretching it with hand. Leave this to the side. We take more oil. Our oil is warm, so it helps out to stretch the dough. And we put one on top of the other. And we have 5 we're gonna put here. Try to make them equal size. They stretch. Once you stretch the 5 together, and we stretch them as large as the pan, we let them rest a little bit. Just about a tablespoon of oil. We don't use a rolling pin for this. Our rolling pin, it's only when we make it our layers with flour. Just stretching it with your hands. All you need is oil. The more it rests, the easier to stretch. And we're going to continue to make 5 each. So we have 20. We stretched 5 and we covered them with a clear plastic just so they can rest for another 10 minutes. Then we'll stretch them the size of the pan, and then we put our first layer. Our dough is stretched all the size of our pan, so we just make sure this is the size that we want, and just flip it, put it in our pan. Our first layer is done. And this will come back. It's like rubber band. We put our first filling. And not too thick, because we're going to put the second layer. And just all around. And we repeat this 2 times. Just cover all the spaces. It's a really light dish. It doesn't have that much dairy. This is our fourth layer. This is our second layer of the filling, and this is our last layer that we cover. They're nice and bubbly. Just a thin going all around, tucking it in. This is very simple dish. And just stretching it with your hand and tucking it tight. And we're just going to drizzle some oil. This is our 20 rounds, and each of them has 5. This is the easiest traditional dish that you can make with just stretching your dough. You see all these air bubbles here. This is what we want. And our oven at 380 for an hour. Since there's only here 20, they cook quite fast. So it's going to be baked nice and crusty and flaky with our 2 layers of leeks. This is for Brenna Arthur. So for her request, made this for her, and we're putting it in our oven on our middle rack. Make sure it's baked in the bottom as well on the top. So our katmer is looking beautiful and nice and crispy and bubbly, and we got another 15 to 20 minutes to make sure it's all nice. This is our, we call this a pregnant stage, which just poops up. Then the rest is after we take it out of the oven. It's done, and it looks nice and crispy and top, but also on the bottom, nice and crusty. So we need to just sprinkle some water just to soften up so you don't. So this you leave at about 5 minutes at room temperature, and then we cut it till it soften up a little bit the bottom, just like crusty. And our leeks, it's ready to be cut with a sharp knife. You hear the bottom crust. Smells so good, and this is how I make my katmer. Soften up the top layer. You can cut it squares. Usually cut it in diamond shape. Let's find out. Still gotta make sure it's cut. This is how I make my katmer, with layers, 2 layers of leeks. And this is for Brenna Arthur, and hope I was helpful for instructions. And don't forget to subscribe if we're new to this channel. And very quick, easy, traditional Albanian katmer. Everyone, today I made katmer with purre. Nice and crusty at the bottom, light and flaky, 2 layers of leeks. Then 20 layers. Have a beautiful weekend and wish all the fathers out there happy Father's Day.